Alright, this lesson is a continuation of bookshelf or paper space for bookshelf 1, and in this lesson I'm going to show you how to create additional layouts or paper space sheets for creating the assembly drawing and a detailed drawing as well. I've already finished off the drawing list. Of course, you would go through and make any changes to any of the titles or drawing numbers, anything else that you've got there. But that's really what the drawing list should look like, and it's all been done in Paperspace. So everything here is on the Paperspace layout for drawing list. All I did was use lines and created the chart and make it look nice and neat, make sure that all the text lines up and so on. But that you should be able to do after having already done the parts list and bill of materials for the other drawings. So carrying on, our next drawing that we need to do is the assembly drawing, and actually here I've added one more border to what I had previously, and in it I've put a bill of materials, so we'll use that when we get to doing a detailed drawing. Okay, so what we wanted is an assembly drawing, and the same view that we had for the cover sheet would really work very well as an assembly drawing, because we need to be able to show all the parts and how they go together. So really what we need to do is recreate this drawing with a different border in it so that we can have the parts list, and then we'll add some leaders and change our title block, and very quickly we'll have our assembly drawing. So to do that, I'm just going to go down to cover sheet, layout, right click, and move or copy, and I'm going to use the cover sheet as my starting point. I'm going to create a copy and say OK. So now I've got this one, cover sheet 2. I'm going to right click on it, rename it, and call it assembly. And then say OK. And now in this one we want to change the border, so I'm going to erase this border out of it. And I don't need the title there anymore. So the view itself we may make some slight changes to, but it's going to be useful to us. So now I'm going to go to the model, and I'm going to take the border that has the parts list in it. So I'm going to edit, copy, enter, and go back to assembly tab, and then somehow I went to the cover sheet and undid my border. So I'm going to undo what I did there. Okay, and everything looks like it's back. So it's on the assembly that I really want to. Sorry, I want to undo, and everything's back now. Okay, so I'll go to the assembly, and I will erase everything off the assembly, other than the view. And I'm now going to go to the model. I'll have to redo this because I did undo. And copy. Then we go to the assembly file, and I'm on the 0 layer, which is good. I'm going to edit, paste, and put it in. Line it up so that it's well within the margins and fairly centered within the margins. And so now we've got this thing. I'm going to change my title to be assembly, and I'm going to change the scale to be NTS, and I'm going to change the drawing number to be 3. And for some reason this one didn't change for me, so I'm going to change that to NTS. The date you would change and draw it by if you need to. So I'm just going to turn on the viewport now for a minute, and that'll allow me to work a little bit easier. I'm going to move this down a little bit just so I can point to the parts a little bit better. So M for move, and click on the viewport itself, and move it down, something like that. And in fact, I might even move it over a little bit. Change my viewport. It's just not good practice to have a viewport sticking out beyond the printable margin, because it can throw you off sometimes when you go to do your printing. So I'm going to bring that in, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn off the viewport layer so to see that Now what we need to do is to add some leaders. So I'm going to go to Dimension, Leader, and leaders I'm going to turn off, or I'm going to use my nearest OSNAP position, so I type in near, and just click somewhere on the object itself. Then leaders should always go off at an angle to begin with, and then use ortho to make it go straight on the second part. And text width, it says at the bottom, I want that to be 0, so I just hit enter for the default 0, and then I'm going to type in my text, so I'm just going to put in the number 1. And then next line of text, I don't want another line, so I hit enter, and I've got something like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle to put around it. Something like that. I'm going to move the text inside over a little bit, and I'm going to take this grip. I'm going to put it near, so I type in near to, and just click on its own line here somewhere, about like that. So we've got a little bit of a gap between the circle and the leader line. This number 1 doesn't look quite straight here, so I'm just going to, or quite centered, so I'm just going to try to get a little bit more centered, something like that. That looks better. And now if I zoom out, it looks pretty good. So I'm going to use that circle and the number for each of the other items that I'm going to number in here. We're going to have 3 parts, so part number 1 would be the base, part number 2 would be the back, so I'm going to put in another leader. And again, I'm going to type in near. And then I want to go and turn off ortho, so that I've got an angled section and then a straight section. And this time I don't want to put any text, so I just hit enter and then say OK up here. And then one more leader, dimension leader. I'm going to put that one in down here. And again, I want it to go at an angle, something like that. And then a straight section, and enter until I'm through, and say OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the circle and the number, and I'm going to copy it from that endpoint through to there. And then for the next one, I'm going to turn off ortho, and I'm just going to put this one in by eye since it doesn't work the same way around. I'm going to turn off OSNAP as well, just at this moment, just so I can not have it go to the endpoint. Something like that. And then what I've got to do is go back and change those numbers. So this should be number 1. This one I'm going to make part number 2. And I'll go down and do the third one. That should be part number 3. Zoom up. And now what I've got to do is to make my parts list agree. So item number 1 is going to be, we're going to call it the base. There's a quantity of 1, so that's okay. And the reference drawing for the base is going to likely be drawing number 4, right? Because it's the next detailed drawing. If I decided to do differently, then I would need to change that reference drawing. So item number 2 is going to be the back, and there's one quantity of 1, and its reference drawing is probably going to be item drawing number 5. I can always go and change that later if I decide to do differently. And item number 3 is going to be the leg, and there's a quantity of 1, and it'll likely be on drawing number 4, or sorry, number 6. Okay, and then I'm going to escape to get out of that. Then I'm going to erase the bottom line. I don't need that row in there at all. So I'm going to take all those ones and delete them out and just shorten up these lines. I'm going to put OSNAP back on again so I can be accurate. now we've got a good looking drawing. It's got a good view, shows how the components work together, shows their identification, and we've got the parts list. So we've now completed that part. The last thing that I'm going to show you at this stage is how to create a detailed drawing. I think I'll do that in a separate lesson so that this one doesn't get too long. And so you can look to part 3 for how to do a detailed drawing. There's a few new things in there.